Hello, everyone. Today I'm speaking with filmmaker and producer Adam Schomer. Adam has directed several documentaries, including the award-winning The Highest Past, The Polygon, One Little Pill, and The Women of White Buffalo. Today we're speaking with him on his latest project, the four-part documentary Selling Superman, which follows a man who discovers his late father's secret collection of rare Superman comics, leading him on a journey of personal discovery and confronting family secrets. Adam, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Pleasure. Great to be here, Brian.
Um, First off, I want to say this was an incredible documentary. I was totally blown away and enthralled within all four parts. I know some people looking at it will just think it's another thing about comic books, but it's so much deeper than
Yes.
just the books. Um,
Yeah.
I guess my first question is, now if I understood correctly, you knew Darren before this.
Yeah. Yeah. We went to high school together. We played soccer together. I'm a couple years older, but he was a good player. I
Wow.
was a good player, so he was up on varsity as a kid, or as a kid. And we were all kids back then. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we knew each other in high school. I knew his father had no idea what was going on behind the curtain.
Oh, wow. Did he reach out to you and tell you about this or
Yeah, we were in touch a little bit about some tech stuff because he's in the tech world and
right.
server. So I had been a little in touch with him a few years before the fateful day when he called me and told me about this. But so he was aware of me and what I had done in my adult life, and I was aware of him. And but again, still no clue that this was going on. No clue his
Right.
father had Asperger's. And then yeah, he called me one day. I know exactly where I was and dropped this bomb. He's like, "You think this is a good story?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is incredible." I mean, one of the three or four top Superman books in the world is in my buddy's hands.
Yep.
Uh, and what really struck me, to be honest, Brian, was the value we put on things. As you know, I'm not necessarily a comic book aficionado.
Right.
I love
Yep.
Star Wars. I love Lord of the Rings. I mean, I'm in that zone, but I could not believe the value our society and people put on them. So it was a nice eye-opening experience to then see, oh my gosh, and his father didn't value his family either, and like
Yeah.
all this stuff that started unraveling. So yeah, that's how it started. I just went and filmed them one Thanksgiving to see if they were good on camera, and that became actually a lot of episode one.
It's when you introduce this collection, it's just a comic collector's dream. It's just, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. It's the fact that he had like doubles and triples of some key major issues there. It's just,
Yeah.
and his father just amasses behind the entire family's back. It's just crazy.
Yeah, they knew he was doing it, obviously, right? They knew he would
Right,
go. Sometimes they would go on Thursdays to Cece's Comics in Livonia. They just didn't know what he had because he didn't share it. Yeah, he didn't read with
right,
the kids. Just took them, put them away. Kind of a classic hoarding mentality,
right.
um, but as we find out in episode four, his father did love going to the comics book store, and the guys there loved him, and he was helping the store owner with his legal work. So he had a little cheers, he had a little community. So it was nice to see, like any villain, right?
Right.
Multi-layers of the villain. Yes, he was very bad to his family in many ways, but he also had a condition. But he also didn't do anything about that condition, and but he was also really loved over in the comic book world. So it's just like life, everything is not black and white.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely, there's so many layers to your
yeah,
documentary. It's like an onion, just peeling it.
yeah,
And it's just that it's hard. It's really not about the comics, but more about Darren trying to deal with his relationship with his father and this huge secret, and you really brought out a lot of emotion. Like, I really felt bad for Darren because he's like struggling what to do with it. And I got the impression sometime there were some points in time where he just wanted to light a match and throw it. That's
yeah. Absolutely. I'm sure people would be surprised if to realize it felt like a burden to him, right? Because it is a holy grail. It's a treasure.
Right,
It's worth a lot of money. Darren's a self-made man already, so it's not like the money. It wasn't a lottery, which is good for me as a filmmaker. I don't like necessarily like the lottery film because it's something
right.
deeper. It's actually more like the Lord of the Rings, as I bring up in episode 2, where it's kind of a burden and it's a powerful thing, but this powerful thing does stuff to people and brings up the past. And the ring wasn't fashioned in all good, right? So yeah, it's a burden for sure. A burden on what to do, what's the correct thing to do, because as we learn a little bit about Darren, he's somewhat of a perfectionist, much because
Right.
of the way his dad brought him up, and a lot of that, you know. I don't want to say self-hate, that's not the right word, but just always having to be on top of things, prepared, correct, do the right thing because the dad's never going to quite approve. And so
Yeah,
you carry that into your life. And so he's feeling that same way about the Superman. What's the exact right thing to do? Yeah,
yeah, I can imagine what a huge weight it must have been on him. It's
I
just,
think so. Still to this day, I think. Yeah.
it's, I mean, one of the most entertaining thing was just watching Darren's introduction to the world of comics. Yeah, I'm a huge comic person, so I've been doing this for years, but just to watch, I'm assuming 40s or something like that, just
Yep.
experience it for the first time, especially conventions, which are entertaining to say within the least.
They are. They are. Yeah, he was I guess I'm 49, so 47. So he was probably around 45 when his father passed. Um, and yeah, likewise, like he was into comics, but not so into. So he really had to
Right,
jump in this world and get to know it. And he loves to get to know an industry and the grading and the business side of it, which we bring out, because a lot of people outside the comic book world don't understand this is how they're graded, this is how they're valued, this is
right.
what goes on, this is the economics around it, this is the love, the
Yeah,
nostalgia and love. People see superhero movies nowadays, but outside of fandom, I hope we've made something really accessible for the general person to go, oh, that's how it is there, and it's really sweet. It's really innocent, and people just have a real emotional connection to these things. It's not, I mean, it's not just geeking out, for a better word.
yeah,
It's real. It means a lot to people. It really does. Yeah.
it really does. I agree with you. It's unfortunately, even with all the movies, there's still the stigma on the actual books that it's still a bunch of guys in tights when it's just branched out to so much more. I'm one of these people who've read, historical ones, westerns, love stories, slice of life. I mean, it's you give me a topic, I could probably give you a comic that has nothing to do with superheroes. So,
It's a great point. Yeah, it's a great point because it's the genre is way beyond superheroes. Yeah,
yeah,
way. What about this topic? What about spirituality? Is there much in the comic world on spirituality?
there are some themes on spirituality within the comic world. I've read a bunch. A lot of things have resonated with me. I mean, yes, I do gravitate a lot more to superheroes because that's what I grew up on, but as I've grown, I've evolved. I think one of the main things that at least opened my eyes that there was more out there was Art Spiegelman's Mouse. And that was, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one. Okay.
Oh,
So Art Spiegelman, just to give you a brief rundown, his father was in Auschwitz. So he wrote this biography called Mouse, where the Jews are mice, the caps are the Nazis, the American soldiers are dogs, as in dog faces, but it's also has to do with his relationship with his father. It's a strained relationship, but yet he's also telling his story about telling his father's story about surviving Auschwitz, and
beautiful.
it's a huge impactful comic. Yeah, there are some colleges that end up teaching it. It's just one of these
Oh, wow.
stories that are just, and like I said, even though it is representative with anamorphic animals, it's still based on Spiegelman's father's true story. And it's just it's a powerful thing.
Sweet. Thanks for sharing that. I'll take a
And
look.
like I said, this is why, things like this, and then people still think it's guys in spandex, and it's not.
Right. It's definitely a lot of people dressing up at Comic Cons, which I also
Yeah.
like because I like to smile. I grew up in a family that laughter was currency. And everyone at Comic Cons does seem genuinely happy and to a larger extent quite accepted.
Yeah.
And that's kind of contagious. I get a little tired holding a camera for 9 hours, but but beyond that, it's really fun. It's really contagious to feel the energy of it, I think.
What was your first reaction when you first walked into the comic convention? Were you like, oh, were your senses overwhelmed? Could you look at these people like, oh my God, what am I looking at?
Very overwhelmed, very again, very the willingness. Everyone wants to be on camera, wants to be seen. That was really apparent. You did not have to like people just wanted to be photographed.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting. Like we dress up to and we feel more comfortable in a mask, so to speak, and we can be seen a little more. I just watched this movie Wonder last night. It's been out a long
Mhm.
time. Very
Yeah.
touching. And he loved Halloween because he could be in a mask and no one would really see his deformities and thus he felt more free and happy. And that was my first take on it all was, oh, everyone's just so willing and happy and out there. And I loved it. After a while, it gets a little draining, like Comic Cons in San Diego.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, I prefer like a Motor City Comic Con than I do the big hoopla. So I love the Detroit ones. Those are fun.
No, no, I fully agree with you there. I personally like the smaller ones myself. A lot of them, the mass, media is a little bit more important than the actual comics to them. But there are still some cons that are out there that are still dedicated just to comic books, which is nice to see and more my speed. It's just I do the New York Comic Con every year, but it's just less and less publishers are showing up, but you got more and more media companies coming in.
Sure, sure. I know. Media, it's America. Media will take
It's
anything that's popular, right? And will monetize it and make it. That's just like that's the culture here. What can you do? Um, I mean, same with wellness and spirituality. I mean, whatever's hitting, they'll take. This culture will just kind of monetize and repeat. And that's, what can you do other than that's what we live in. But that's just our country.
yeah. Can you give us an update on like how Darren is doing today? Has he been able to deal with the little thing, things a little better between him and his father?
Yeah, it's a great question. And for those that haven't seen it, the series opens with him not wanting to be in the series, and a lot of it's because all this media and news is bringing up and making him look at his relationship with his father, and really in a quick, very fast manner.
Right.
And not having great tools for dealing with such trauma, I guess you would say. And it's not easy, and having that filmed, right? So all that to set up the context that it was a difficult journey for him, definitely.
Right.
And nowadays, I would say he's more at ease with the film,
Okay.
more at ease. Doesn't want to be in the limelight, doesn't want to be in the media, that's for sure.
Right.
He'll do media things if I really ask, or we think it's a reputable thing that aren't going to try and twist his words, because this happens, right?
Right.
Um, but still, with his father specifically, you'd have to ask him. I can't exactly say, but
Right.
I would say from my perspective, Darren at the beginning to Darren now, he's a more evolved human. Yeah, for sure. I think he's more aware and in touch with his feelings. I think he actually, he's very smart guy, right? And so
Hmm.
intellectually understood some of the reasons he was feeling things he was, but it doesn't change the wiring we have and what
Right.
we're experiencing in our bodies. And so that process actually just does take a while, be it therapy or just be it emotionally moving through things or getting perspective can take a while. So I think he's still moving through that. It's not like much like all of us, not a finished product. But I do feel like I'll say that his mom represents the possibility, right? Because she's very, I would say, at peace with the father, with
Right.
Dale. She represents really being able to talk about it from a distance way, being able to interact with comics now and not feel that pain.
Okay.
She just really wants her sons to also be through it. And I think,
Understood.
yeah, my short answer, or my very long answer would be progress for sure. Where he's at exactly with his dad. I think we also see in episode 4 a bit where he's kind of like I was just saying, this is the country we live in. He's realizing this is just who my father was. I don't think my father would understand the emotional side of comics, and that I think is heartbreaking, but it's good to realize.
Understood. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, and I'm not going to ruin it for people. Chuck Rosansky, if you love him or hate him, regardless, in episode 4, from Mile High Comics, he reveals such a unique story about his childhood and his perspective on it all. I think is really, really strong there near the end of the series.
I agree. And now I got to ask, it's your end product is about a 4 hour, probably a little over. How long did it take you to like film all this and put it all together? Like, how long did
Yeah,
it take you to do?
Uh, we technically started November 21. That was
Okay.
in episode 1 when we're in the house. That was
Right.
me just going to meet Darren and his family again and film them and see how they are on camera. It turned out, like I said, to be a lot of episode 1 was this very verite feeling thing. It was literally just me in the house with them. So I love that stuff. Then we really brought in film crew May of 22. So we really started in November 21, and we had came out on Apple, etc., and Amazon for purchase November of 24. So that's a 3-year process from first
Wow.
filming to releasing, which is not uncommon.
Right. Right.
To do it in 2 years is moving fast usually because partly the distribution process takes a while too. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it's the end product is just truly amazing. And like I said, it's just it's so much deeper than just comic books. It's one man's journey about his own spirituality, his relationship with his father, and it's that hits more home than the comic thing. I really feel
I
the
agree.
comic thing is just I feel that is the catalyst,
Yeah.
but it's I correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind
Oh,
of the
1,000%. And that's for me more interesting, and that's where you see the filmmaker, like, because I'm deciding what's really interesting to tell and talk about. We could go into the minutia of collecting and the minutia of grading and all and the business and the economics, but ultimately the more relatable thing is an emotional story,
yep,
relationships, father son, and that's what I'm more interested in. And mental health, to me, is very interesting, and how we process that, and power, true power. We
right,
come to talk about that, and Nietzsche a little bit, and Ubermensch, and what the original Superman was thought up of as. So to me, that's the more interesting stuff. And yeah, I wanted to slowly reveal that while we keep on the hook of, wow, what do you do with this treasure? And as you saw, some of the craziest things that happened in episode 3 as well with that treasure that we didn't mean to have happen. But so it's like it's to me, I love we have this great outward pop culture icon and hook to then slowly reveal a family dynamic, mental health drama. To me, and value system. To me, this is what film should be. That's what I love.
right.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It truly is just I've gotten several of my friends who have not into comics like me, and I'm like, it's not about comics. You got to see this, and they loved it.
Oh,
It's
cool.
it's an amazing, like I said, it's just his journey is it's incredible the way you captured all this emotion, and there are some things, and that really I was not not the comic stuff, but just the relationship with his father that hit home for me.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of things that
Were
were
you guys
like
close? You and your father close? Did you do comics together or?
not really per se. It's he was there when I got into it. Not really a fan that I liked it, and really just not that supportive. But at the same time, he would do weird things. Like I remember when I was a little kid, somehow he was able to get me into the DC offices, which was like I was like 11 or something like that, and was just like that blew me away. But it's just at the same time, he's at 50 years old, he's just like, well, this is kid stuff. You gotta, and I'm just like, but it's been kind of a bonding thing with me and my son.
Ah,
So, he's one of the things is he's really into comics and he's really has gotten into these characters. Um, I do have a small action figure collection. I don't have a huge one like a lot of people, but it's just he would ask me who is this, and that led to me giving a dissertation about who the character was. Also meant that my action figure collection kind of shrank because, but it is something him and I do share as an
nice.
interest, and I wish I did have that relationship with my father, but I'm glad I can have it with my son. If that
Very.
makes sense.
Yeah, that's very sweet. I mean, hey, our parents aren't always going to get us, at least originally.
Yeah,
And maybe they come around later, but how cool that, because I'm sure, talking about a character can lead you into just morals of life or how
right.
it's a nice access point just to talk about, hey, what's a good person,
Yeah,
or without it being, stuffy.
yeah.
Uh,
No, I totally. Um, we're Jewish, and for a way to get my son to be proud of his Judaism, I told him, okay, these characters are Jewish, and he was blown away by that, and it gave him a sense of pride in being Jewish, and it's just little things like that.
that's amazing. That's really amazing. And I do want to say, Ubermensch from Nietzsche has a little bit of a bad rap because
Right.
Hitler took a book and made it what it wasn't, right?
Yeah.
So I hope people realize that that's not where Nietzsche was coming from. That's not where that book was coming from.
No.
Ubermensch was not a super race. He was saying the super person can really be beyond conditioning and decide what life's all about. And then, as anything, people grab ideas and twist them. So I just want to,
Unfortunately.
yeah, mention that because that's not at all what he was about.
If you don't mind me asking, what's next on deck for you right now?
Ooh, oh, so many good things. So, thank you for asking. Aaron's Law, I'm executive producing. I brought in an amazing director, Maureen Eisern, to direct that. Aaron's Law is, in short, Erin Marin was on Oprah. She was on Katie Couric, Glamour Woman of the Year. We have exclusive rights to her story. She went through sexual abuse as a kid and,
Hmm.
and really kind of David versus Goliath rose up to become a speaker about it and create a law, fight legislation, and she's passed it in
Wow.
38 states that said it mandates 1 hour of curriculum per year that schools have to teach a kid what's safe and not safe touch, who you
Right.
talk to, if someone is touching you, who you can talk to, and that's really the big thing. And it is just proven to help stop it early and to put people behind bars. And it's passed in 38 states. There's 12 more to go. So we're following her fight, at the legislators to get this passed. So that's the one that's happening now. We're raising funds for, but we start filming anyway because that's just kind of what we do sometimes as
Right.
documentary filmmakers. We live our lives kind of on the edge. And then speaking of on the edge, the second one we're going to be filming in September. It's the third in the trilogy, and the last one of the motorcycling in the Himalayas documentaries that I do. The Highest Pass, The Road to Dharma, and now this one is The Wheels of Awakening. That's a month in Ladakh, India, in the high Himalayas,
Oh,
as they say, on motorcycles and with wisdom and masters and monasteries. So it's kind of it's what I like, which is this mix of adventure, mix of something you can follow, like motorcycles and high peak, 19,000 feet on a road, the highest road in the world. Uh, the new highest pass, back when I filmed my first film, the highest pass, it was 18,000. Now there's one at 19.
wow.
So I love that mix of, the inner wisdom with an outer journey. So those are the two on deck. I feel like I'm missing one, but I don't. There's a couple others, but they're not in the stage. Those two are happening. So Aaron's Law film, if people want to see the sizzle, that's the long trailer. Aaron's Law film, it means a lot to me because it's a tough thing. Yeah,
I can imagine. Well, Adam, thank you so much for talking to us.
you got it.
Those at home, if you check down below, you can see on how you can watch Selling Superman, as well as a link to Adam's production company, Eye2Eye Productions, and links to his socials as well.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Again, Adam, thank you for joining me.
Great to talk with you. Thanks, Brian.